In the dusty heat of a forward operating base, a simple tattoo on a soldier's forearm became a punchline for a team of elite operators. They called it a barracks regret, a drunken mistake, a pretty piece of art wholly unfit for the gritty world they inhabited. Their jabs were met with silent, unnerving calm. But when a critical mission hung in the balance, and a mysterious sniper they called the Ghost saved them all from annihilation, the team would learn the chilling truth. As the sniper lowered her hood and wiped the grime from her face, revealing the very symbol they had ridiculed, their hardened SEAL commander would freeze, his blood running cold with a recognition that tore through 2 decades of secrets and a single, unthinkable question. Was the legend they thought dead standing right before them? The laughter in the makeshift briefing room was a harsh, barking sound, cutting through the dry Afghan heat that seeped into everything. It was directed at the new temporary attachment, a sergeant first class named Ilara Vance. She was checking her rifle, her movements economical and quiet, a stark contrast to the boisterous Navy SEAL team around her. The focus of their amusement was the intricate tattoo that curled from her left wrist up her forearm, a swirling, almost celestial pattern of stars, nebulae, and orbital paths encircling a single, stark Latin phrase, per aspera ad astra, through hardships to the stars. Nice ink, Sergeant, chuckled Petty Officer First Class Duke Marino, a mountain of a man with a beard that could house small birds. You get that after a few too many at a space convention. Another SEAL, Wiki Chun, leaned in, smirking. I think it's poetic. Means through enough beers you see stars, right? Ilara didn't look up. She simply continued her methodical check, her gray eyes calm and distant. Her silence only fueled them. Commander James Thorne, a man carved from granite with a gaze that had seen too much, watched from a corner. He said nothing, his command style one of controlled chaos, letting his men blow off steam. But the tattoo, it nagged at him. It was too precise, too familiar in its artistry, echoing a style he hadn't seen in 20 years. He dismissed it as coincidence. The world was full of tattoos. Their mission was straightforward: provide overwatch and rapid extraction for a CIA asset being smuggled out of a Taliban-infested valley. Intel was shaky, but the asset was deemed high value. Ilara, an Army Ranger with a legendary sniper reputation even in SWF circles, was loaned to them for her long-range expertise. To the SEALs, she was an outsider, a soldier in their maritime world, and her tattoo was an easy target for their insular ribbing. The insertion was a tense, silent ride in a modified MH-47. Ilara sat apart, her helmet on, her face a mask of concentration. The SEALs, now in mission mode, were all business. The chopper dropped them on a rocky ridge 5 clicks from the target village. They moved under the cloak of darkness, a well-oiled machine. Ilara split off with her spotter, a young SEAL named Rabbit, to establish a hidden overwatch position on a higher ledge. From her perch, the world unfolded through her scope. The village slept, or seemed to. Rabbit whispered adjustments, impressed despite himself by her utter stillness. Down below, Thorne's team infiltrated the village, locating the safe house. Then, everything went wrong. The silence shattered into a storm of muzzle flashes and roaring gunfire. The safe house wasn't a sanctuary. It was the center of a meticulously laid ambush. The asset was a setup. Taliban fighters, more numerous and better equipped than intel suggested, poured from the mud brick buildings, pinning Thorne's team in a deadly crossfire. Radio comms erupted with control panic. Heavy contact. We are pinned. Request immediate suppression. Thorne, firing short bursts from behind a low wall, knew they were in a kill zone. Their exfil route was cut off. Mortar rounds began to walk closer, shaking the earth. In his ear, he heard Rabbit's tense voice from the overwatch. Ghost is engaging. Ghost was Ilara's call sign. What happened next was not shooting. It was a brutal symphony of applied physics. Through the scope, Thorne saw a Taliban machine gunner, the key to the enemy's flanking fire, suddenly drop, a fine red mist appearing where his head had been. A second later, the sound of the shot reached them, a sharp, distant crack. Then another. A fighter aiming an RPG from a rooftop crumbled. Then another. Each shot was perfectly timed, each target a critical node in the enemy's attack. The suppressing fire slackened, just enough for Thorne to bark orders and reposition his men. But the enemy had a sniper too. A round snapped past Thorne's head, close enough to hear its whisper. It came from a different direction, a high mountain pass to the far north, well beyond where they had positioned Ghost. This was a professional. A new voice, cold and steady, came over the net. It was Alara. "Command, this is Ghost. You have an opposing marksman bearing 015, extreme range, estimating 1,800 meters. He has you dialed. Do not move from cover. I am relocating." "Relocating? To where?" Thorn hissed. "That's an insane distance." There was no answer. For 10 agonizing minutes, the firefight reached a stalemate. Their unseen savior had stopped shooting. The enemy sniper took 2 more potshots, keeping the SEALs terrified and immobile. Thorn felt the mission, and his men bleeding away. Then a single solitary crack echoed through the mountains, different from the others, sharper, lonelier. It came from the distant northern ridge. A second later, Rabbit's voice, breathless with awe, crackled over the radio. "Command, Ghost just took the shot. I say again, Ghost engaged. I cannot confirm hit at this weight. The enemy sniper fire has ceased. I see a body falling from a pass. She got him. She actually got him." The disbelief was palpable. The shot was mathematically staggering, a thing of myth. With the enemy sniper eliminated, Thorn rallied his team for a desperate fighting retreat towards the exfil point. The Taliban, disorganized now, without their key shooters, fell back. The SEALs, battered but alive, made it to the dusty landing zone as the extraction birds roared in. Back at the FOB, the mood was different. The joking was gone, replaced by a somber respect and a burning curiosity. They had been saved by a shot that defied belief. As the chopper blades whirred to a halt, Alara jumped down, her gear caked in dust. The team gathered around, Thorn at the forefront. Duke, the one who had mocked her most, stepped forward, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Sergeant Vance, that shot." He began, but words failed him. Alara gave a small, tired nod. She reached up with a gloved hand and pulled off her helmet, then the brown headscarf underneath. Blonde hair, matted with sweat, fell loose. She then took a canteen, poured water on a cloth, and began to wipe the thick camouflage paint from her face. The grime and green and brown streaks melted away, revealing sharp features, high cheekbones, and those calm gray eyes. As she cleaned her left cheek and jawline, the team stared. The tattoo on her forearm was one thing. But now, clean-faced, they saw a smaller, matching mark on the side of her neck, just below her ear, a tiny, perfect cluster of stars, a mirror to the larger art. And, in that moment, Commander James Thorn's world stopped. The blood drained from his face. His stern command mask shattered, replaced by a raw, undisguised shock that made his men take a step back. His eyes locked on Alara's face, then flickered to the tattoo, to the star cluster on her neck, and back to her eyes. A lifetime of memories of a different world crashed over him. He knew that tattoo design. He knew the artist. He knew the woman who had inspired it, a woman lost to history, to a mission gone so catastrophically wrong that her name was never spoken. His voice, when it finally came, was a hoarse, broken thing, barely a whisper heard by all in the sudden, ringing silence. "Laura." The name hung in the dusty air, a ghost-given sound. The SEAL team froze, looking from their commander's ashen face to the unreadable woman before them. Alara Vance's expression didn't change, but a flicker deep in her gray eyes suggested a door long locked had been nudged. She finished wiping the last of the camo paint from her brow. "My name is Sergeant First Class Alara Vance, Commander," she said, her voice even, a formal wall erected between them. Thorn didn't seem to hear. He took an involuntary step forward, his gaze tracing the lines of the tattoo, the specific swirl of a nebula, the exact font of the Latin. That design, the star cluster on the Cepheus Carina arm, it's identical. And the neck piece, the 7 sisters. His own words seemed to shock him. He hadn't thought of those astronomical terms in 2 decades. The SEALs stood in confused silence. This was not their commander. This was a man seeing a phantom. Duke finally found his voice, the bravado gone. "Skipper, you know her." Thorn ignored him, his professional composure in tatters. "Lara Finch is dead. She died in the Black Sea. 2003, no body was recovered." He said it as if trying to convince himself to re-anchor reality. A faint, almost imperceptible tension tightened Alara's jaw. "I've read the file on the Finch incident, sir. A tragedy. But I'm not she." She began to move past him, towards the operations tent, signaling an end to the conversation. The file, Thorne said, the word sharp, stopping her in her tracks. The file is 5 paragraphs of redacted lies. He lowered his voice, but the intensity was scalding. The woman I knew designed that tattoo the night before we shipped out. She drew it herself. Said if she was going to have ink, it would be her own. Peraspera d'astra. She wanted to be an astronaut. A pilot first, then NASA. He was talking too much, revealing secrets buried in a classified grave, but he couldn't stop. The artist was an old Czech in Bucharest. Namavas Josef. He did one version on paper, one on skin. Only 2 existed. Ever. Alara stood, very still, her back to him. The team watched, understanding dawning that this was far deeper than a chance resemblance. This was about a past their commander had sealed shut. Finally, she turned. The detachment was still there, but it was now clearly a shield. Debrief is in 15 minutes, Commander. We should focus on the after-action report. She walked away, leaving a vortex of silence in her wake. In the debrief, she was all cold, flawless professionalism. She detailed the enemy positions, the estimated count, the miraculous shot she'd made. When pressed by the CIA liaison on the extreme-range engagement of the enemy sniper, she simply said, I had a stable platform, clear optics, and calculated for a 22-knot crosswind at 1,800 meters. The bullet took just under 4 seconds to reach the target. It was a viable shot. Her tone suggested anyone could have done it. The SEALs knew better. Afterwards, Thorne was a storm. He retreated to his small private quarters, a containerized living unit, and paced. Lara Finch. His mind tore back to a different time. He wasn't a SEAL commander then, but a young, cocky lieutenant in Naval Special Warfare Development Group, part of a joint, ultra-covert task force. Lara wasn't military. She was CIA's new prototype, a civilian pilot and astrophysics prodigy recruited for her unique ability to navigate by stars in electronically denied environments. She was their celestial guide for a mission to infiltrate a rogue Russian scientist's yacht in the Black Sea. She was brilliant, sharp-tongued, and had eyes that held entire galaxies. And she had drawn that tattoo. The mission was a furnace. Everything went wrong. They were compromised. The yacht was a floating fortress with unexpected security. In the chaotic exfil, under heavy fire, Lara's small reconnaissance craft was hit. Thorne, from the deck of their own speeding boat, saw it explode in a fireball before sinking into the dark, icy water. Search and recovery found nothing. No debris, no body. She was listed as Kia/MIA, presumed dead. The official story was a training accident. The guilt had eaten at him for years. He had been the ground lead. Her safety was his responsibility. He'd moved on, hardened, risen through the ranks, but the memory of that explosion was a permanent scar. And now her face, older, harder, but undeniably hers, was here, in Afghanistan, with the tattoo that was her personal signature. Coincidence was a fairy tale. As night fell, he made a decision. He bypassed the chain of command and accessed a secure, back-channel database he hadn't touched in years, using old codes that should have been dead. He queried Alara Vance. The file that came up was a masterpiece of construction. Army enlistment, Ranger School, Sniper School deployments, all seamless, all starting in 2005. 2 years after Lara Finch died. It was perfect. Too perfect. The digital paper trail was immaculate, which meant it was fabricated by experts. He then searched for the tattoo artist, Joseph, in Bucharest. The man had died in 2004, in a reported burglary. The timing was not lost on Thorne. He sat back, the blue glow of the monitor illuminating his haggard face. Lara Finch had not died in the Black Sea. She had been disappeared, reborn as Alara Vance. But by whom? And why? And what did it mean that she was here, now, saving his team with a shot that echoed the skills of the woman he'd known? He had to talk to her, away from the base, away from ears. He found her on the observation post at the edge of the FOB, staring out at the dark, jagged mountains. She didn't turn as he approached. Joseph is dead, Thorne stated flatly. She was silent for a long moment. I heard. A shame. He was an artist. He did the original. For Lara. The night before Bucharest. Another silence, longer this time. The wind whistled through the concertina wire. James, she said, finally, using his first name, and the sound of it from her voice after all these years was a physical blow. Some graves are best left unopened. For everyone's sake. You faked your death. The agency buried you, then built you a whole new life. A soldier. A sniper. Why? She turned to face him. In the starlight, The tattoos on her arm seemed to glow faintly. Lara Finch was a liability. She knew things, saw things on that boat that weren't in the briefing packets. Things about where the Russians' research was really going. Things about who was really funding him. Her death was convenient. For certain people, my recruitment into this new life wasn't choice. It was witness protection with a rifle. A deep cover sleeper, in case the past ever came knocking. And has it? Come knocking? Thorne asked, dread coiling in his gut. Alara's eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw genuine fear in them. The shot I took today, that wasn't just any Taliban sniper. His rifle, his posture, it was professional. Spetsnaz-level professional. And the pass he was in? It's a known infiltration route for Russian military intelligence. She paused, letting it sink in. They're not here for the Taliban, James. They're here for me. Someone from the old world just found a ghost. And now they're going to try and put her back in the ground for good. The weight of her confession pressed down on the desolate observation post. The mountains were no longer just terrain. They were a hunting ground, and the prey was standing beside him. Russian intel? Here. Thorne's mind raced, shifting from personal shock to tactical threat assessment. That changes everything. We have to report this. This is a direct confrontation. Report to whom? Alara's voice was a low, urgent hiss. My chain of command is a ghost file in Langley. The people who own me, the ones who built Alara Vance, they are a cell within a cell. If you file a report, it goes up standard channels. The very people who might have sold Lara Finch out in the first place could see it. You'd be painting a target on this entire FOB and confirming I'm alive. Thorne felt the familiar ground of military protocol dissolving beneath his feet. He was in a world of shadows and mirrors. So what's the play, Lara? Or Alara? What do I call you? Here, I'm Vance. And the play is to finish my tour and disappear again. But after today, she looked back towards the lights of the base. They know I'm here. That shot was my signature. Only a handful of people in the world could make it, and Lara Finch was one of them. You think they'll come for you on base? No, too messy. They'll engineer a situation, a mission, something that gets me out there. She gestured to the dark expanse, where an accident can happen, or where I just don't come back. Like last time, Thorne's old guilt fused with a new, protective fury. Not on my watch. Not again. He made a decision, one that bypassed all his training. You stick close to my team. We're your shield. We watch each other's backs. It's what we do. For the first time, a crack appeared in Alara Vance's armor. A faint, grateful nod. Thank you, James. The next 2 days were a tense ballet of normalcy and paranoia. The SEALs, now clued in by Thorne to a sanitized version. That Vance had a high-value history, drawing hostile intelligence attention. Closed ranks around her. The mockery was gone, replaced by a fierce, unspoken loyalty. She had saved them. They would protect her. Duke, in particular, became her shadow, his earlier jabs transformed into a gruff, watchful guardianship. The expected mission came down not 48 hours later. High priority, a captured Taliban commander, with alleged ties to foreign intelligence networks, was being held in a remote compound across the border in Pakistan's loosely governed territory. A joint CIA/SOF snatch and grab. Vance's long-range capabilities were specifically requested. The request came through unusual, encrypted channels that Thorne distrusted immediately. It's the play, Alara said flatly as they studied the maps in the ops center. The location is perfect. Isolated, complex terrain, denied area. A perfect place for a blue-on-blue or an enemy ambush that leaves me dead. We don't have to go, Thorne said. If we refuse, they'll find another way. Or they'll bury you for insubordination and take me anyway. Better to go on our terms, eyes wide open. The plan was set. They would insert under cover of darkness. Thorne SEALs would hit the compound. Alara, with Rabbit again, would set up on a dominating ridge overlooking the valley, providing overwatch and covering the exfil route. The whole mission felt like walking into a coiled snake's den. The insertion was flawless, the night flight low and fast. As they fast-roped into the rocky valley, the silence was oppressive. Alara and Rabbit broke off, melting into the shadows to climb to their perch. Thorne watched her go, a knot of cold anxiety in his chest. The compound assault began with silent entry. It was empty, not a soul. Thorne's heart sank. It's a trap. Fall back. Exfil now, he barked in his radio. But before his team could react, the night erupted. Heavy machine gun fire, not from the compound, but from the surrounding hillsides, pre-sighted, overlapping fields of fire. These are not Taliban farmers. This was disciplined, sustained fire from professional soldiers. Then came the worst sound, the distinct, supersonic crack of a high-caliber sniper rifle, followed by Rabbit's pained gasp over the net. Ghost is hit. I'm hit. Sniper. Opposing sniper on the high ground. He was waiting for us. Alara's voice followed, strained but controlled. Rabbit's down, leg wound. I am pinned. Sniper is professional. He has me suppressed. The trap was specifically for her. The compound was bait, the ambush on the seals a distraction, but the real duel was on the ridge. Thorn, his team fighting for their lives in the valley below, was helpless. He heard the sharp, precise exchanges of sniper fire echoing above. One shot from the enemy, a careful probing round. Then, Alara's disciplined response, a single shot moments later. They were talking to each other with bullets, searching for a weakness. In his earpiece, he heard her breathing, steady, focused. Then, she whispered, more to herself than to the radio, same pattern. The same it's him. Who? Thorn demanded, firing bursts at a muzzle flash. The Black Sea, the shooter on the yacht. His rhythm, it's the same. Her voice held a terrifying mix of fear and cold hatred. This wasn't just a random Spetsnaz marksman. This was the man who had shot down her craft 20 years ago. He was here to finish the job. The firefight in the valley reached a fever pitch. The SEALs were outnumbered and outgunned. Thorn knew they were minutes from being overrun. Their exfil bird was holding, but couldn't land under this fire. Their only hope was for the enemy sniper to be neutralized, freeing up Alara to suppress the machine gun nests. Up on the ridge, Alara Vance embraced the ghost. Lara Finch's memories, the terror of the cold water, the betrayal, the decades of hiding, crystallized into a single, icy point of focus. The enemy sniper had made one mistake. He'd shot Rabbit, not her, revealing his position just a fraction more than she had revealed hers. He thought he had the advantage. He thought he was hunting. She remembered Joseph, the old artist, his needle buzzing. She remembered James Thorn, young and smiling, teasing her about her space tattoo. She remembered the star charts she used to love. She exhaled, slow and complete, her finger taking up the slack on the trigger. The crosshair settled. She wasn't just making a shot. She was answering a question 20 years old. The rifle roared. The shot echoed across the valley. A second passed. Then, too, the enemy machine gun fire from one of the nests suddenly ceased. Alara's voice came over the net, clear and strong. Opposing sniper neutralized. Engaging secondary targets. What followed was a masterclass in precision under pressure. With the enemy sniper gone, she systematically began dismantling the ambush. One by one, the machine gun positions went silent. The disciplined fire turned to confused panic. Seizing the moment, Thorn rallied his men and fought their way to the exfil point. The helicopter flared in, kicking up a storm of dust and grit. As they piled in, Thorn looked up at the dark ridge. Vance, Rabbit, status. Moving to you, she responded. Minutes later, she emerged from the darkness, half carrying, half dragging Rabbit, his leg bandaged. They scrambled aboard, and the bird lifted off, bullets pinging harmlessly off its armor as it climbed into the safety of the night sky. In the vibrating belly of the helicopter, lit by red cabin lights, the team sat in exhausted silence. Alara leaned back, her face smeared with new grime, her eyes closed. Thorn looked at her, then at the tattoo on her forearm, now partially covered by a torn sleeve. He saw not a mark of mockery, but a badge of survival, a map of a journey through hell and back. She had not just saved them again. She had faced her own past and put a bullet in it. But as the lights of the FOB appeared in the distance, Thorn knew one thing for certain. The war for Alara Vance was not over. It had just come back to life, and now he was part of it. The return to the FOB was not a relief. It was a return to a different kind of battlefield. The silence in the helicopter was thick with unspoken truths and adrenaline aftershock. Rabbit was rushed to the medics. His leg wound serious, but not life-threatening, thanks to Alara's swift aid under fire. The team dispersed to clean gear and decompress, but a heavy tension lingered in the air. Thor knew the official debrief would be a minefield. He had to report the ambush, the professional opposition, the empty compound. But how much of the truth could he tell? Alara's revelation about the sniper being the same man from the Black Sea was a nuclear piece of information. It connected a 20-year-old CIA catastrophe to a current operation, implying a leak, a conspiracy, or a vendetta that spanned decades. He found Alara in the arms room, meticulously cleaning her rifle. The methodical, loving care she gave the weapon was a ritual of control. She didn't look up as he entered. "We need to talk." Before the debrief, Thorne said, his voice low. "The debrief will be a fiction," she replied, not pausing her work. "We were ambushed by well-trained insurgents. I engaged a sniper. We were lucky to get out. That's the story. And the fact that it was a targeted assassination attempt on a U.S. asset by what appears to be Russian military intelligence. The fact that the shooter was personally connected to you." She finally looked up, her gray eyes weary. "That story gets everyone killed, James. It gets you and your team labeled as risks. It gets me disappeared permanently this time. And it tips our hand to the people inside my own organization who likely set this up." The word "our" did not escape him. They were in this together now. "So what's the endgame, Alara? You can't run forever. They found you here. They'll find you again." A faint, grim smile touched her lips. "I'm done running. For 20 years, I've been a ghost, reacting, hiding. Today, I stopped reacting." She set down her cleaning rod. "He's dead. The man who pulled the trigger on my old life. That chapter is closed. But the people who gave the order, they're still out there. In Langley. In Moscow. Maybe in this very theater of operation." A new, chilling thought occurred to Thorne. The mission request. It came through special channels. Someone here in the command structure had to validate it to greenlight us walking into that trap. Alara nodded. A facilitator, probably unaware of the full picture, just applying pressure from a higher, classified source. But a link in the chain. We find that link, we can start pulling. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a stern-looking colonel from Joint Special Operations Command, flanked by a man in a crisp suit who had seen written all over him. The debrief was immediate, and it was held in a secure room far from the team. The colonel was focused on tactical failures. How was the intelligence so wrong? Why did they proceed into a compromise zone? The CIA man, who introduced himself only as Keller, was more interested in the opposition. "Describe the professionalism you witnessed." "Equipment. Tactics." Thorne stuck to the agreed-upon fiction. Well-trained mercenaries, possibly former state military. Alara was taciturn, describing the sniper duel in dry, technical terms, omitting any recognition. Keller's eyes lingered on her. "A remarkable shot, Sergeant Vance, under the circumstances. Eliminating a threat at that range while pinned down, that's a rare skill set." "Training and luck, sir," she said, her gaze neutral. The debrief ended with vague promises of an investigation. As they were dismissed, Keller stopped Alara. "A word, Sergeant." Thorne made to stay, but a look from the colonel forced him out. Outside, Thorne paced, his mind racing. After 10 minutes, Alara emerged, her face a careful blank slate. She walked quickly towards the living quarters, Thorne falling in step beside her. "What did he want?" "He offered me a job," she said quietly, disbelief in her tone. "A more direct application of my skills on a new task force." He's standing up. "Very hush-hush. Said my file was impressive. It's a trap. A cleaner way to get you under their control." "Of course it is. But it's also an opportunity. It gets me closer to the center, to the people who pull the strings." She stopped, turning to him. "I have to go. It's the only way to end this. But I can't do it alone. I need someone on the outside who knows the truth. I need you." Thorne didn't hesitate. "You have me. But my team, they can't know anymore. It's too dangerous for them. This is a deep, dark game, James. The kind that breaks careers and lives." 2 days later, Alara Vance was transferred off the FOB. The paperwork was swift, the explanations minimal. She was being reassigned to a special projects unit stateside. The SEALs gave her a subdued but respectful send-off. Duke even awkwardly shook her hand, muttering, "Keep your head down, Sergeant." As she boarded a waiting unmarked plane, she shared one final look with Thorne. It was a look that held 20 years of history and a silent promise for the future. Weeks passed. Thorne's team rotated back to the States. The ambush was filed away as one more messy incident in an endless war. But Thorne couldn't let it go. Using every bit of his rank and connections, he began a quiet, personal investigation. He reached out to old contacts from the Black Sea days, men who had also left the shadowy world. He heard whispers, stories of a rogue operation back then, one that wasn't about a Russian scientist, but about silencing him and anyone with him because his research was being co-opted by a private, transnational consortium with ties to intelligence agencies on both sides of the old Cold War divide. Lara Finch had seen the wrong people on that yacht. One night, a secure, encrypted message arrived on a burner device Thorne kept locked away. It was from Alara. It contained no text, only two attachments, a set of astronomical coordinates, and a digital fingerprint of a security access key. He understood. The coordinates were a time and a place, a reference to a star alignment they'd once talked about, a date 3 weeks hence. The key was an invitation. The day arrived. Thorne, on leave, found himself in a quiet corner of the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., standing before a display of vintage astronaut helmets. He felt, rather than saw, her approach. She looked different. Civilian clothes, hairstyled differently, but it was her. She stood beside him, looking at the helmet, not at him. "The consortium is real," she said softly, her voice barely a murmur. "They call themselves the Ascendancy. They've been using intelligence networks as their private hunting grounds for decades, weaponizing secrets, eliminating obstacles. I was an obstacle. Now, I'm a threat. What's the play?" Thorne asked, his eyes on the reflective glass of the display case. "The access key I sent you. It's for a server, a digital ghost train. It contains everything I've gathered. Names, shell companies, operations, including the Black Sea. It's set to broadcast to every major intelligence agency and news outlet in the world in 72 hours. But it needs a physical, offline trigger from a secure location. 2 keys turn at the same time. One by me, inside their firewall. One by you from the outside. A dead man's switch." Thorne absorbed the enormity of it. They're going to blow the whole thing sky high. They'll come for you. Instantly. I know. But the truth will be out. It'll be too big to bury, too many names. It'll burn the Ascendancy to the ground. She finally turned her head, looking at him. Her gray eyes were clear, resolved. "No more fear. I need to know if you're still with me, James. After everything. It's okay if you're not. You have a life, a career." He thought of the young woman with the star charts, lost to the cold sea. He thought of the soldier with a mocking tattoo who saved his men. He thought of the decades of lies. He reached out and, for the first time, touched the tattoo on her wrist, his finger tracing the line of the Latin phrase. "Per aspera ad astra." "Through hardships to the stars," he whispered. Then he met her gaze. "I never left your side, Lara. Not really. Send me the details. I'll be ready." A small, real smile, the first he'd ever seen from Alara Vance, touched her lips. It was the ghost of Lara Finch, finally at peace. She gave a slight nod, turned, and melted back into the crowd, leaving him alone with the astronaut's helmet and the silent, sprawling stars on the museum wall behind it. The final mission was a go.